Well, thanks for joining. This particular module is going to be, I'm going to call it a little bonus content, and I've tried to, as we go along, I talk about there's this trading software and there's the ability to analyze your option positions. And I'm careful to say that I use Thinkorswim, but I know that not everybody does. So I'm well aware of that, and I want to make sure that that you know that there's a lot of different ways to analyze options. I personally use Thinkorswim because I think it's one of the better platforms. I don't have any financial affiliation with them. I'm just a customer. So I do use it because I think it's good, and I've been using it for a long time, and I understand it, so that's a part of it as well. But I wanted to just show you a few more things on reading profit graphs that are specific to this platform. Now, it's not to say that you only have these capabilities in this platform. If you have other option trading platforms or options analysis platforms, you might have similar capabilities. There's probably just different buttons to click to get there, but I wanted you to see what was possible with this software so you can at least know what kind of capabilities might be out there. And if you don't find them anywhere else, maybe you'll also decide to use Thinkorswim. Again, it doesn't matter to me. I don't have any affiliation with them, but I do think they're quite good. So I'm going to pull up. Let's pull up Apple. We've been using that for a lot of our examples, and we're going to look at some option positions graphically, so we can look at, we can sort of analyze what it might mean for different positions. So what I will do is I'm going to add a simulated trade, and that's up here in the upper left where it says Add Simulated Trade. I can click on something and I can go to let's look at an at the money option. Let's look at something a little more complicated, and you don't need to know how to do this at all. You're just gonna we're just gonna look at what the graph looks like, and we're gonna do something kind of crazy. We're gonna look at what does it look like, an iron condor. Okay, so here's an iron condor. Fancy name for a position that looks like this. All right, so here we are, an iron condor. And what's interesting, I'm going to unlock these guys, and let me simplify this a little bit. I'm going to get rid of these. They have this thing called price slices. Again, it just has to do with the software, the Thinkorswim software. But the way you read these graphs is that across the bottom is the price of the underlying. So right now we're looking at the price of Apple. You know, Apple's currently at right around 147, and so that's where it is today. And depending on where it goes, this purple line is going to express your P&L. And you'll see that over on the left here. So you see different amounts. So the purple line, like for example, if the price went up to this area, let's say 152, that's the top of this purple line, you can see that I'd be up, about $100. And in fact, if you look this area right here that I'm circling, it changes as I watch this area right here. We'll call that the balance. I don't have a name for it, the balance menu. So look at the balance, or look at the P&L. When I hover my cursor right here, it says, there it is, 109.80. So this tells you that if price went there today, we would profit 109.80. And then you'll notice below that there's a blue one. It says 1690, and it has a date of 9/18, which happens to be the expiration date. What this is saying is, if price were at 152, 153 at expiration, which is September 18th, then I would profit 1690, 1,690. So, and in fact, you see how it's flat up at the top here. If price stays anywhere between this area, I'm going to profit 1690 if it's there at expiration. And you can make those areas wider, and there's ways to change this. I don't want to go into an iron condor strategy right now. I just want you to see how to read the P&L graph. So this is a position that if it hovers around this middle area, anywhere in the middle, I'm probably going to be profitable for some time. And if it goes way outside these wings, I've got risk. Now, we're going to talk about how to assess those risk and the profitability in terms of numbers when we get to Greeks. That's where these numbers like delta and theta and vega come in. Those are ways of sort of expressing your risk numerically. But you can pretty easily look at this graph and see that. One of the cool things you can do this with this software, so just to be clear, what's on the bottom here in red, you can see that we sold 5 for 155, we bought 5 for 160, we sold 5 for 150, and we bought 5 for 145. Whatever's on the bottom here is what's expressed in the graph. So if I change these, let's say I want to change, maybe I want to make these wider. So I'm going to go to 135 on the lower wing, and I'm going to go to 140 there. Now look at that. Now, so the price is in the middle. I've taken this lower wing and pushed it out. Now what that does is it makes it wider, so it gives me a better chance of success. But you'll also notice, again, look over here, when I hover my cursor in there, it's no longer $1,600, it's now $800 in max profit. So I give up a little profitability in order to gain a higher probability of getting that profit. And that's kind of one of the trade-offs that you frequently have to make in options. And this analysis software helps you do that. So hopefully you're getting the hang of reading profit graphs where, again, you see the underlying price, whatever happens to price across the bottom is going to affect your P&L over on the left. Now, one of the cool things you can do with this software and a lot of analysis software is you can also fast forward and say, what if, right? So what if price was the same price at this 146 on a month from now? Let's go September 1st. And you can see we would be up $400. And you see that over here when I hover my cursor, but you also sort of see it where my cursor's at. We'd be up $400. And also wherever this dotted price slice is also reflected right here numerically again. So if price stayed at 146, which you see right here, on the date forward of September 1st, this is what my Greeks would be, my delta, my gamma, my theta, my vega, and this is what my P&L would be. Now, what if price in that month period of time, what if Apple went up to 150? Well, we can move this to 150, or another option is I can just type 150 in right here, and you'll see I would be up 361, so a little bit less. But you can see the P&L reflected there. So you can do this for any day. And that's kind of a cool thing because it allows you to sort of look at, what does the range look like? And this is kind of cool. I'm going to add a price slice. That's these guys right here. And I'm going to put it right where the purple line crosses the 0 line. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. And now you can see what those prices are. You see them here, 140. You see them here, 140. So anywhere between 140 and 154, if I stay in that range, I'm going to be profitable. If I get outside of that range, I'm going to not be profitable on September 1st. Now that's important. The purple line, or what we call the T+0 line, is always today, or the date reflected down here. If I go, if I want to see what I am at expiration, you can see it's a little wider. In other words, this will change. And what always happens that you have to keep in mind is the purple line basically turns into the shape of the blue line at expiration. And I'll illustrate that by clicking forward one day at a time, and you'll see the purple line. I'm just moving the calendar forward one day at a time. The purple line is moving up. Okay, now here we are at 9:13. We're just at 4 days before expiration. It's gradually turning into the shape of the blue line, and one more day, there it is. Now the purple line is completely hidden behind the blue line, and you'll see that is at 9:18, which is our expiration date. You see it over here. So this will always happen. This is it, the purple line, or the T+0 line. I'm gonna turn this back and say go to today. So this is what today looks like. The T+0 line on these option graphs will always turn in to the shape of the expiration line at expiration. But it's important to remember that we're not at expiration. As an example, today we're at 8/4 looking at something that doesn't expire for a month and a half. And that's important because, at least for my trading and some of the strategies I'll show you, we don't normally hold positions to expiration. So the blue line, or the expiration line, is a lot less important than the T+0 line. I'm more interested in what's going to happen today. What is my risk if there's a big move in the market today? What is likely to happen over the next week or two, or whatever my holding period is? Sometimes I do really long positions where I go out and I use an expiration that's 6 months out, but my average hold time on those is only about 2 months. So I'm much more interested in what's going to happen in the next 2 months than I am what's going to happen 6 months from now. So, but this is a very handy feature when we get into something called implied volatility, which we haven't talked a lot about yet. We talked about a little bit. It's that thing where we said it was expressed in time value. Basically, the more time value where there is in an option, the more extrinsic time value there is, that determines the price, the more bearing that has on the price. That's called implied volatility. Well, that is measured in something called Vega, and you can also simulate changes in implied volatility. For example, let's say that this is volatility adjustment, not volume adjustment here. I could say what happens if volatility goes up, 20 points. What happens? Well, watch the purple line. The T+0 line crushed down because what happened was the options that I paid for at this price, this 167 price, they got, I'm a net seller of those, and they got very expensive. If I was a net buyer, the opposite would be true. Let me show you that. Let me go back to 0, and we'll just uncheck this. We'll leave it here in case we need to come back to it. But let's just go do a simple, I don't know. Let's say we bought a put option for 140. Okay, just a simple put option. Let's say, so this says, and we'll look at the picture, and what you see here is that I bought 5 at 140. So this gives me the right to sell Apple at 140. So if Apple goes to 100, I still have the right to sell it at 140. So I can profit from that. I could sell it at 140 and turn around. I could buy it from 100 on the open market if it was down to 100. And this will actually show you that if I take one of my price slices and I move it out to 100, right? Here I am right here. I can actually zero in exactly on 100. And this will show you that I'm up $18,000. What did I pay for this? I paid $1,000. I paid, you can see right here, 5 at 215. So remember, these are times 100, so that's $215 for each one. And I bought 5 of them, so I'm a little over $1,000. That $1,000, if we drop to 100, turns into 18,000. A lot of people use this kind of a strategy to hedge. If they own a lot of Apple stock and they want to protect it, they'll take a little of their profit and do this, because it doesn't take much to pay off if there's a big crash, as you can see. And the most risk you'll ever have is, you can see Apple can go up to infinity, and this flat line just stays flat. So the risk is fixed, but the profit is more or less, I don't want to say unlimited, but it's significant all the way down to 0. But again, the T+0 line is what's happening today. The blue line is at expiration. So you can see that if we moved down, we would, these lines start to come together when you get far enough out of the money, and that's pretty much what happened. We would be up significantly. Now, let's watch what happens with a volatility adjustment. This thing that we paid $215 for is going to get very expensive if there's a volatility adjustment. So if I go up, well, we did 20 points, didn't we? Go up by 20 points, suddenly I'm now, this area in here especially, you can see the purple line jumped way up. And that's because these options got very expensive. Let's look at a price slice that's a little more realistic, like 130. And I'm going to go back to 0. Let's compare the prices. All right, we're up. If we drop to 130, we have the right to sell at 140. We're up $4,500. If volatility jumps by 20 points plus 20, I'm now up $6,000. I've got a 50% increase in the price of the option just because of volatility. And this is at the same price, it's at 130. And the reason that happens, again, this is not a lesson on volatility, so I won't get too deep into it, but if the price starts going down, people start buying put options like crazy. And so it's a supply and demand issue. People are buying, there's more buyers than there are sellers, and prices go up. It's the same reason stocks go up and down. It's the same reason options go up and down. When there's a lot of buyers, then prices will go up. So when things aren't going well, or there's question marks, or earnings are about to come out, implied volatility increases, and that's when you see these volume spikes. So you'll see that, and then the opposite will be true. If we had you can also simulate that with the software. You can put a minus sign there. If we had a minus, that put option gets a lot less expensive, and you can see how the purple line came way down. So it's kind of a neat thing you can do with this software. You can look at these positions, you can adjust price, you can adjust volatility, and you can get a good picture. When we learn, for example, about Greeks, about delta and theta and vega in particular, when you get a good picture of those things, you'll get an idea of where your risk is and at what price points your risk changes. And those are all really valuable ways to look at your position. And when we start talking about strategies, you'll understand why many of these strategies work, and you'll understand if they don't work, what do you do about it, and how do you fix those things. And that's one of the beauties, one of the things I love about options is there's always many ways to adjust and many ways to fix things if things aren't going well. So there's just so many different possibilities. This iron condor is just one kind of crazy example of that. Is you can see how putting options together give you this really unique structure that says, hey, I can create this sort of neutral structure that if price just stays kind of where it is today, if I have one of those kind of stocks that's just hanging around, and I think it's going to hang around for a few more days or a month or a week, then I can figure out a way to profit from that. It doesn't have to go up, it doesn't have to go down. In fact, I don't care if it goes up or down within a range, and I'm good. So one of the neat things about options is just the flexibility and the way you can construct many different positions. There's a lot more to the Thinkorswim analysis page here, a lot more that you can do. But those are the things that I do most often, and I wanted to share them with you because it just sort of hopefully will reinforce this idea of how to read a profit graph, how to assess your position, how to assess the risks in your position. Okay, I will leave it at that, and we will see you in the next module.